Here is something nobody warned you about. The deeper you think, the lonelier you become. And that loneliness has nothing to do with how likable you are, how kind you are, or how hard you try to connect with people. It happens because of something far more psychological, something buried deep in the wiring of the human brain. And the most disturbing part, society has known about this for thousands of years. It just never wanted to talk about it. Today, we are going to change that. Because if you have ever walked away from a conversation feeling like your words landed in empty space, if you have ever held back a thought because you already knew no one would follow it, if you have ever been told you think too much as if that were a flaw, then what you are about to hear will finally make sense of something that has confused you for a very long time. Let us start with a simple but powerful question. Why does physical strength impress people, but intellectual depth unsettle them? Think about it carefully. When you meet someone who is physically stronger than you, you do not feel personally threatened. You might admire them. When you meet someone wealthier, you might feel a small sting of envy, but it does not shake your identity. You still know who you are. But when you meet someone whose mind operates on a deeper level, something entirely different happens. Something shifts. People get quiet. They change the subject. They make jokes to break the tension. They pull away, sometimes without even realizing it. Why does intelligence, more than any other form of superiority, produce this reaction? The answer lies in something psychologists call the mirror effect. When a deep thinker enters a room, they do not just bring new ideas. They bring a reflection. Their presence quietly reveals the intellectual limits of the people around them. And human beings, as a species, will do almost anything to avoid that kind of discomfort. Psychologist Leon Festinger, who developed the theory of cognitive dissonance in 1957, showed that the human mind experiences real psychological pain when confronted with information that contradicts how it sees itself. Meeting someone who thinks more deeply does not just introduce a new idea. It introduces a threat to the most personal thing a person owns, their self-concept. This is why intelligence provokes defensiveness in ways that wealth or physical strength simply cannot. Your bank account is not tied to my identity. Your muscle mass does not challenge my sense of self. But your ability to think more clearly, more originally, more deeply than me, that strikes at the core of who I believe I am. And it goes deeper than psychology. It goes all the way back to how our brains were built. Neuroscientist Joseph Ledoux, in his research on the amygdala, demonstrated that this small almond-shaped structure in the brain responds to perceived threats with remarkable speed, long before the rational mind has a chance to process what is actually happening. The amygdala does not distinguish between a physical predator and a social one. In group settings, the presence of someone who is noticeably more intellectually capable can trigger the same neural alarm system that fires when danger is near. This is not an exaggeration. It is biology, and the reason goes back to how human beings survived for hundreds of thousands of years. Our ancestors did not thrive by being the smartest individuals in the room. They survived by maintaining cohesion within the group. Being accepted by the tribe meant safety. Being excluded meant death. So the brain evolved to prioritize social harmony over intellectual truth. And when a deep thinker arrives and disrupts that harmony, when they ask questions that challenge group beliefs or introduce ideas that make people feel inadequate, the brain does what it was designed to do. It treats that person as a threat. A research study published in the Journal of Experimental Social Psychology found that when individuals felt intellectually outperformed in a group setting, their first instinct was not to engage or learn. It was to socially exclude the person who made them feel that way. The threat response, in other words, is not just felt internally. It gets directed outward. This is why a 2021 Stanford study on group dynamics produced such a striking finding. When people interacted with a highly intelligent individual in a one-on-one setting, the threat response was manageable. Many people were even genuinely curious. But in group settings, that response intensified dramatically. Because in a group, it is not just about how you feel, it is about how others see you. Social status becomes the operating variable. If someone else looks smarter than you in front of others, it does not just feel uncomfortable. It feels dangerous in a deep evolutionary sense. So people do not just feel unsettled by the deep thinker. They organize against them, often unconsciously, through dismissal, mockery, topic changing, and social marginalization. Now let us add 3 cognitive biases that make this pattern even worse. First, the Dunning-Kruger effect, documented by psychologists David Dunning and Justin Kruger at Cornell University in 1999. Their research showed that people with limited knowledge in a given area consistently overestimate their own competence. Meanwhile, those with genuine expertise tend to underestimate themselves. The result is a deeply ironic social dynamic. The least informed person in the room often speaks with the most confidence, while the most informed person holds back with doubt. This means that in almost every casual social environment, the person most likely to be believed is not the most accurate thinker. It is the most confident one. Second, status quo bias. Nobel-winning psychologist Daniel Kahneman's research established that the human brain has a strong preference for what is already familiar. New, complex ideas require more cognitive effort, and the brain, whenever possible, chooses the path of least resistance. Deep thinkers introduce complexity, and complexity feels like a burden to a brain that was designed to conserve energy. Third, the backfire effect, studied by political scientists Brendan Nyhan and Jason Rieffler, which shows that when people are confronted with evidence that contradicts their existing beliefs, they do not update their thinking. They double down. They become more committed to the wrong idea, not less. Combine all 3 of these biases, and you get a social environment that is almost perfectly engineered to reject deep thinking. Now consider what technology has done to this problem. Social media algorithms do not reward depth. They reward engagement. And the fastest way to generate engagement is not to make someone think. It is to make someone feel something immediately, whether that feeling is outrage, amusement, or the comfortable validation of hearing what they already believe. Research from the MIT Media Lab published in Science magazine in 2018 found that false information spreads roughly 6 times faster on social platforms than accurate information. The reason is not complicated. Misinformation is almost always simpler, more emotionally charged, and easier to share than the truth. In this environment, the deep thinker faces a structural disadvantage. Nuance does not compress into a 10-second clip. A carefully reasoned argument does not fit on a thumbnail. The more accurate and complete a thought is, the harder it is to package for an audience whose attention is being actively competed for by thousands of other pieces of content every single hour. This is not just a social problem. It is a technological one. The architecture of the modern information environment systematically amplifies shallow thinking and suppresses deep thinking. And most people do not even realize this is happening to them. Arthur Schopenhauer, the German philosopher who lived from 1788 to 1860, understood something about this dynamic long before social media existed. He argued that most human behavior is driven by what he called the will, a blind biological force that pushes people toward comfort, pleasure, and survival, not toward truth. In his major work, The World as Will and Representation, published in 1818, Schopenhauer made a claim that shocked his contemporaries. He said that the average person does not want truth. They want peace. They want confirmation. They want to feel that the world makes sense and that their place in it is secure. But the deep thinker, Schopenhauer argued, is driven by something different, a compulsion not just to live but to understand. He called this the will to truth, and he believed it placed the intellectual in a state of permanent tension with ordinary social life. Because to pursue truth seriously means accepting that many of the things people hold dear, their social rituals, their comfortable assumptions, their emotional securities, are built on incomplete foundations. And when a deep thinker sees this and cannot pretend not to see it, they become, in Schopenhauer's words, unsocial. Not by choice, by perception. He wrote that a high degree of intelligence tends to make a person unsocial. The reasoning behind this was not that smart people are cold or arrogant. It was that the more clearly someone sees reality, the harder it becomes to participate in the comfortable illusions that hold most social interactions together. History confirms this pattern with a consistency that is almost impossible to ignore. Socrates, who lived in Athens from 470 to 399 BC, dedicated his life to a single practice: asking questions, not to embarrass people, not to show off, but because he genuinely believed, as he told the Athenian court before his execution, that the unexamined life is not worth living. Athens executed him for it. The official charges were corrupting the youth and impiety. The real reason, as the philosopher's own student Plato documented, was that Socrates had made too many powerful people feel intellectually exposed. He was not wrong. He was inconvenient. Galileo Galilei, the Italian astronomer who lived from 1564 to 1642, used a telescope to observe that the Earth moves around the sun, a fact that directly contradicted the official position of the Catholic Church. In 1633, the Inquisition forced him to publicly recant his own observations under threat of torture. He spent the last 8 years of his life under house arrest. His books were banned. His crime was not error. His crime was accuracy. Nikola Tesla, who lived from 1856 to 1943, developed alternating current electrical systems that power virtually every building in the world today. He held over 300 patents, yet he died alone in a New York hotel room, in debt. His most ambitious work on wireless energy deliberately starved of funding by financial interests that profited from existing power infrastructure. Tesla himself wrote, "The present is theirs. The future, for which I really worked, is mine," and laid the theoretical foundations for modern computing. Was prosecuted by the British government in 1952 for being homosexual. He was subjected to chemical castration as a condition of avoiding prison. He died 2 years later at the age of 41 from cyanide poisoning, in what a 2009 British government inquiry officially acknowledged was a tragic injustice. A man who arguably shortened the war by 2 years and made the digital age possible was destroyed by the society he had helped to save. Hypatia of Alexandria, a mathematician and philosopher in Rome and Egypt who lived from approximately 360 to 415 AD, was one of the ancient world's most respected scientific minds. She was publicly murdered by a religious mob in 415 AD, not for being wrong, but for teaching people to think rationally in a time when power depended on keeping them from doing exactly that. The pattern is not subtle. In nearly every era of recorded history, the people who saw furthest ahead were treated as threats by the people who could not see as far. So what does this mean for you? If you are someone who thinks deeply, who wrestles with ideas while others move comfortably through small talk, who has felt the particular loneliness of being in a crowd and feeling completely unseen, the history and psychology laid out here are not meant to discourage you. They are meant to explain something that you have probably suspected for a long time. There is nothing wrong with you. What you are experiencing has a name, a cause, and a very long list of company. But understanding the problem is different from knowing how to live with it. And that is where the real conversation begins. First, protect your energy deliberately. Not every environment deserves your depth. Schopenhauer himself advised that a thinker must choose carefully where they invest their intellectual honesty, not because people are unworthy, but because casting detailed, complex thinking into a setting that is not equipped to receive it produces frustration on both sides. Learn to read the room, not to suppress yourself, but to choose your conversations with intention. Second, find your intellectual community, even if it is small. The history of ideas shows that great thinkers rarely thrived in mass audiences during their lifetimes. They found one another. Aristotle had Plato, Darwin had Lyell and Hooker, Einstein had Bessel and Bohr. The number does not need to be large. The quality of the connection is everything. Third, make peace with the long timeline. Almost every thinker in this video was not recognized until after their ideas had time to filter through society. Galileo's findings were officially accepted by the Vatican only in 1992, 350 years after his death. Van Gogh sold almost none of his paintings while alive. Kafka asked his friend Max Brod to burn his manuscripts. Today, those manuscripts are considered masterpieces of world literature. If your ideas are real, they do not need immediate validation. They need time. Schopenhauer ended his reflections on this subject with something that has stayed with serious readers for 2 centuries. He said that talent hits a target no one else can hit, but genius hits a target no one else can see. The tragedy is not that the target is invisible to others. The tragedy is mistaking their inability to see it for evidence that it does not exist. You are not broken for thinking deeply. You are not wrong for feeling out of place in conversations that cannot go where your mind naturally goes. You are not too much. You are simply operating at a frequency that most of the people around you have never been asked to tune into. Society does not fear intelligence because it is dangerous. It fears intelligence because intelligence reveals what comfort is designed to hide. The gaps, the contradictions, the uncomfortable truths that hold up the entire structure of ordinary life. And the people who see those things clearly are not the problem. They are, and always have been, the ones who eventually move everything forward. If that is you, then the loneliness is not a dead end. It is a direction.